Entertainment pundit Grace Randolph is a very polarizing figure. In fact, she's like Marmite. Sometimes you'll like what she says, and sometimes you won't like the taste of what she's saying. It's very, very difficult with Grace. In fact, she blocked me on Twitter many years ago. We fell out. Um, and that's life. It's sad because I think she has great entertainment knowledge. She definitely has a love for film, going back to like 40s movies, and she knows it. She knows it all, but she isn't always right. None of us doing this are always right. I'm hardly ever right. I'm just speaking about how I feel about things. So Grace Randolph did a shot-by-shot video of the Superman teaser trailer, and she was critical of some things and complimentary about others. Now, she's claimed that she's being bullied and harassed and attacked by some fans, notably James Gunn's fans. Now, this is a very, very interesting situation because there's been this civil war ever since James Gunn was announced to write and direct a Superman movie and to be running the DCU. There's been this kind of civil war between James Gunn fans and Zack Snyder fans. And this is very, very interesting. Now, James Gunn and Zack Snyder have tried to cool this situation down, but it just hasn't worked because you've got to have brains, right? And a lot of these people who hate each other maybe haven't got the brains that they should have. But you're talking about $2 million directors. They're millionaires, right? And you're arguing over them, right? While they're sitting there smoking their cigars. It's very, very silly to me. And what do these arguments solve? But anyway, so Grace Randolph has claimed since her shot-by-shot video, she's been bullied and harassed by fans. And I find this very, very interesting. Because Grace Randolph didn't post a teaser trailer reaction like the rest of us did as soon as it came out. And I was very dubious and suspicious about this at the time. I thought, this is not like Grace Randolph. She's always there with the trailer reaction, whatever the trailer is. Why isn't she reacting on Superman? Now, we know there's bad blood between Grace Randolph and James Gunn. Grace tries to calm it down a little bit, but there's bad blood between these two people. She said stuff about him before. He's kind of denied it. There's been a coming together. So let's put it this way. They are not friends. And so the James Gunn fans obviously know this. So she does her shot by shot. She says a lot of things. She says some complimentary things. She says she doesn't like the way it looks. It's too clear. It looks AI. She's not enamored with the casting of David Corenswet, although she was a supporter in the early days. She doesn't think that Nicholas Hoult is right in terms of his features to play Lex Luthor. Look, these are I don't think this is Grace Randolph going after a James Gunn movie because it's a James Gunn movie, but it is interesting to me that she didn't do a teaser reaction from the beginning and she waited to do a shot by shot. But in this shot by shot video, she doesn't just go after James Gunn's DC. She pours scorn over the Arrowverse. She says Arrowverse really damaged DC and the future of DC movies. I don't agree with that. She talks about, why is it Luthor Corp? Why isn't it Lex Corp? And she says, she doesn't mention the fact that maybe in the film, Lex Luthor's father, maybe Lionel Luthor, maybe he's called that as he was in Smallville. Actually, Smallville created the name Lionel Luthor. Lex had never had a father in the comics or anything like that. But maybe Lionel is still alive. Maybe like in the Raimi first Spider-Man movie with Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn had shareholders to answer to. Maybe Lex Luthor and the Luthor Corp has shareholders he has to answer to. So at the moment it's Luthor Corp, but probably by the end of the movie it will be called Lex Corp. So I don't really understand why people are kind of, oh my God, why is it Luthor Corp and not Lex Corp? But Grace, in her criticisms of it being Luthor Corp and not Lex Corp, doesn't mention the fact that there could be, a narrative reason for this. But anyway, she critiques elements of this trailer and how the film looks. But basically, to me, it's just Grace Randolph being Grace Randolph. As I say, she's a very polarizing figure. Sometimes I agree with her. I mean, look, she was saying stuff like the Batman should have made $1 billion. I think that's utter nonsense. And she's saying, fans saying, oh, it just came out of the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. It's the first movie. She goes, doesn't matter. Should have made $1 billion. I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I think, like, Batman Begins, which is one of my favourite, along with Batman Returns, one of my favourite Batman movies, Batman Begins didn't even make 400 million at the global box office, but it was a very cheap, low-budget film to make. And that's why they gave Nolan the sequel, The Dark Knight, because they still made a little profit, and the reaction to the movie was very, very good. Never underestimate the reactions from the public. You know, so if James Gunn's Superman movie doesn't make $1 billion or something, but the public like it, and it makes 600 or 700 million, and it's not divisive, Man of Steel and BVS were divisive, that's one of the reasons that Warner Brothers started becoming reactive. It was the public reaction. It was a reaction from critics that really killed that franchise rather than just the box office. So that's important. But yeah, so basically the Batman made 742 million, 750 million. That was a great amount of money, but WB will want the Batman 2 to make around $1 billion. There's no question about that, especially when they've really allowed Matt Reeves to take so long and they've had to delay the movie so many times. So she's taking shots at Smallville in this video, at the Arrowverse. She's basically, nobody's safe in this video. But she could, I think her critique of the trailer for Superman is constructive. I don't think she's really being venomous or unfair or disrespectful to James Gunn. Everyone has a right to have an opinion without you bullying them and harassing them. Grace Randolph has a right to have her opinions. I mean, she's been a supporter of the Snyderverse fandom. She's been a detractor. Then she went and started saying things about the Snyderverse stands, that they were bullies and they were this. One minute she was positive about the Snyderverse, then she was being negative about the Snyderverse. But she has been consistent. She didn't like Man of Steel. She liked the Batman elements of Batman versus Superman. I think she loves Zack Snyder's Justice League mostly. But yeah, she's a bit of a... she's an interesting figure, because one minute she was very supportive to the Snyder fans and then she wasn't. So that was interesting. That was rather... I think she even interviewed Zack Snyder in a video to the build up to Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think Zack was going on a lot of YouTube channels because he wasn't really allowed. He didn't really have a proper marketing budget. So he was going to content creators on YouTube. And he had a great interview with Grace Randolph. So she was kind of a supporter at the time. But she's entitled to her opinions. But so yeah, Grace is very in and out. You never know. Grace Randolph isn't really necessarily a supporter of one director. She judges the things that she wants to see and she critiques them. And you know, when you see her critiques of anything, sometimes they come across quite irrational. For the Superman trailer, she doesn't like the look of the Daily Planet in places. She's critiquing the size of Clark Kent's desk. Silly thing. Grace really looks at details. I don't look at details. She talks about, you know, the picture not being grainy. We've spoken about her accusing it. She doesn't like the picture of Superman, the bit of Superman smashing the glass. I think that's one of my favourite moments from the trailer. She says the picture's too clear, as I've already said. And she talks about it looking too like artificial intelligence. She says, like, the picture looks too AI. No, I think it looks fine. She goes, it doesn't look cinematic. But who's to say what looks cinematic and what doesn't look cinematic? You know, everyone's got different ideas of what cinema is. The way the old westerns look, to some people, is cinema. The way the Back to the Future movies look. Maybe cinema to other people. There's not just one look that you call cinema. But anyway, they're her opinions and she's entitled to them. But this is kind of interesting that she's going around saying that she's been bullied and harassed by James Gunn fans. It is interesting, I was on Threads, which is basically James Gunn's social, media platform, really. That's where they all go, that's where he goes. And one fan goes, well, I've found the James Gunn fans to be quite pleasant, although I am one myself, he's saying, And he goes, I find the Zack Snyder fans quite intimidating and, harassing. Well, here's the thing. People are emotional. People are passionate. And in the heat of the moment, people may act in a way that they shouldn't be acting, and maybe they saw Grace Randolph's video and reacted a certain way, but she has every right not to agree with what you agree with. And nobody is, you know, it's like me. I've fallen out with James Gunn fans before because I've had to constructively criticise him. That's my job. That's why it's not my job. I do this for fun, but it's what you've got to do. You've got to be balanced. I'm a massive fan of the Snyderverse, but I've constructively nitpicked and, you know, criticised what Zack did. You know, I didn't think it was a good idea to do a Superman Rebirth story within a Justice League movie. So I've had incidents with Snyder fans and James Gunn fans. People are passionate. They want you to agree to have the view that they have. And as soon as you don't, they turn on you. This is the problem with social media. Social media is very, very reactive. And of course, Grace Randolph is going to come out and love it and say, "Oh yeah, I'm being attacked by these fans," and you know, and this is what she does. This is how Grace's platform has grown and grown. In a lot of ways, she's a polarizing, controversial figure, and you've got to be careful around her at the end of the day. But yeah, at the end of the day, she has the right to her opinion. Now, because of the bad blood between her and James Gunn, we knew she wasn't just going to come out and say, "I love this trailer, it's amazing." Now, I'll stand by my opinion of that trailer. It looks really, really good. It, you know, visually it looks great. The story looks interesting. And I think we're going to get an interesting Superman film here. I'm not one of those people who's going to tell you, "Oh, this is going to be the best Superman movie ever. This is going to be the best live action adaptation. Oh, David Consworth looks like the best Superman ever." You know, what's her name? Rachel, that's it. I'm not saying that Rachel looks like the best Lois Lane ever, you know, but she looks good, and I think she's a really good actor and a great choice. I think the Jimmy Olsen they're using looks great, you know. Now you know, as I said earlier, she kind of critiqued the casting for Nicholas Hoult, saying he was kind of wrong. Now, I like Nicholas Hoult. I think he'll do a great job, but I think there were better options out there to cast as Lex Luthor, like Vince D'Onofrio, who plays Kingpin in the MCU, in the Daredevil series as well. He's a perfect Lex Luthor. He looks great bald. He's intimidating as Kingpin. He is who should be playing Lex Luthor in the DCU, and it's a shame he's not, but I think Nicholas Hoult will do a fine job. She even and as I said again earlier, you know, she doesn't seem overly happy with the casting of David Consworth. So that's interesting. She says the costume is taking away, really, his body mass. This is the problem we had with the Superman Returns costume. It made Brandon look shorter. It took away his muscles, his body mass. In a way, James Gunn's Superman costume is doing the same to David, but not on that level, thankfully. And I must admit, when he's punching the glass, he looks very muscular. It looks really cool. And I'm getting used to that costume now. It's not the costume that I wanted, but it does look better in live action than it did when they first revealed that costume. But yeah, Grace Randolph is like Marmite. She's always going to polarize people. She's always going to divide people. And the best thing is, if you don't like what she says, unfollow her, mute her. You know, because if you're seeing someone that's constantly saying things that wind you up, you're going to constantly end up being triggered and maybe attacking her verbally, and then she's going to play the victim. The best thing is, if people annoy you that much on social media, don't follow them. It's better for you, and it's better for them. Because now, yeah, as I say, she's going around now, it's become a big headline. Oh, Grace Randolph's being attacked by James Gunn fans. It's not a good look for them, because they've been playing the victims. They've been playing the good fans, while they've been claiming the Snyder fans are the bad ones. So how does it feel now, James Gunn fans, when you're being accused of harassment and toxicity? You see, this is what happens. This is what happens in life. Things turn around. Did Grace Randolph do this on purpose to trigger James Gunn fans into, you know, attacking her a little bit? Because it's interesting, because as I say, there is bad blood between James Gunn and Grace Randolph. And yeah, and it is interesting to me that she didn't react to the trailer when we all did as soon as it was released. That was very interesting. So we knew something was coming. So her shot by shot video was a very interesting video. And it kind of was full of the venom I expected